From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Dustin has part of his monthly chat with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. I talk grain marketing strategies with Michael Weidner of Landus, and Mark has a clip from the latest episode of Pods of Potential. Now let's welcome in our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Well, we are back on another edition of Iowa Ag Matters. A little bit of a gloomy day here after basically an absolutely gorgeous day yesterday. No rain in the forecast, or at least not much of a chance of it here in central Iowa, Mark. But again, a little bit of cloud cover today, and we'll have to wait and see. The temperature's supposed to start warming up here by the weekend. We'll see if we can hit to that 80-degree mark like they're forecasting by even Sunday.
And at the same time, it has been a lot like what we've gotten used to this spring, which is that yo-yo effect. We'll have a very nice warm day followed by a cooler day that is, feeling much more like the start of spring. It's been a strange spring season in that regard, but that's kind of just the pattern we've gotten used to. And Dustin, as I was reading some things here over the past couple of days, trying to think about all the frustrations we've talked about that farmers are having right now with the price of inputs, the price of fuel, everything that is happening with fertilizer. And a lot of that right now in the immediate term ties back to the Iran war. And I was reading some things about how there was so much oil, obviously, that flows through that bottleneck, that Strait of Hormuz, that the effects will be felt for a long time, even after the conflict wraps up. And something that was said is that essentially for every day that the strait has been closed, and I think we're now up to 80 days, that it will take about a week for each one of those days to get back to pre-war levels. So when you think about that, 80 weeks would be a tremendous amount of time after the conflict ends for things to potentially get back to pre-war levels, if they even do. So that is a thing that is going to just linger in the background of farmers' minds as they're making their plans for the future.
Yeah, that is definitely will, and it's hopefully. I hope that calculation's incorrect, but I have a feeling it's going to take a while. And farmers are needing that relief, and of course, the House and the Senate. The Senate definitely has been taking up the concerns, as you've heard from Senator Grassley. We talked with Senator Ernst a couple weeks ago as well, and both of them very concerned with what we're seeing right now out in that realm with the effect of the fertilizer prices on these producers and the aid that they're going to be needing, because they can't have this uncertainty between trade deals and wars and lacks of trade deals elsewhere. I mean, it's just been way too much. It's been a perfect storm of issues that these farmers have had to deal with. And, we hope and pray that these get resolved sooner rather than later. And of course, we did get that information that we have a handshake agreement with the Chinese earlier over the weekend. And, of course, we're waiting for some confirmation, but the market's already digested that and is moving. And of course, any peace news is putting pressure on the markets as well. I mean, we remember when the war started, the fact that the commodities skyrocketed, and now they are under pressure as the peace talks are going on, and that puts pressure on those markets, and it puts a little more certainty back sometimes in the marketplace, and that settles things down, and we'll have to see how that plays out. And good time to go and get that conversation going as Mark talks about those grain markets with Joe Camp of Comstock Investments here today as they look at what's happening in the marketplace.
Joined today by Joe Camp of Comstock for the opening market discussion. Joe, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
We've got some rebound attempt going for corn futures, otherwise mostly flat overnight. Backing off a bit are the soybeans and wheat past the 8:30 reopen. We have the same theme prevailing in that we're watching for details on China. Again, thinking about some relative disappointment. There's been no flash sales popping up just yet. We thought that could be an immediate celebration of this weekend announcement on the $17 billion worth of agricultural purchase commitments in addition to the soybean purchase promises. So to not yet have any of that indication of the demand returning has led to the markets mostly selling off here into the back half of the week. We know that can change in an instant, though. Chinese buyers don't want the price to go up necessarily after it comes down. We may see that activity start to stir up.
So essentially, Joe, on Monday we saw the big price move to the upside, and now we've run out of steam a little bit because of the lack of detail?
That seems to be the case. The lack of follow through. I think the detail in the White House fact sheet about the $17 billion in addition to the soybean purchases, that was enough. Now, mind you, there is still clarity desired about the time frame, about new purchases or counting against previous sales already made for the next crop. But all things can be cured by the Chinese stepping in and buying in a bigger way, in a way that's telegraphed in part by these flash sales that we're watching now so closely for. Even before that, we'll have reports from commercial traders that China's interested in soybeans or sorghum or wheat. And to see the broader range of what could possibly be included in addition to soybeans is still something that now we've got to wait and see more on.
Joe, have you seen any concerns or anything that caught your eye in the crop conditions report that was on Monday?
You still have to respect the deteriorated condition of the winter wheat crop as we approach that harvest. Not all of it is the big standout is going to make it to harvest. For one, abandonment high this year on that hard red winter wheat crop across the southern plains. What does make it to harvest, maybe we can get into it and possibly say that was better than feared, even if slightly better, and even if slightly better than compared to the USDA estimates that previously rallied the market after they surprised with that big production cut made on the May report. So to see how that unfolds is something we're still tracking in the crop progress numbers. Besides that, it's the newly planted corn and soybean crops, of course. And what we see is that the national averages running ahead of pace like they are is representative of some favorable conditions in some areas, but then also others where it was able to be planted, these crops, because it had been so dry and still is. So we'll wonder about how this new season is shaping up and won't rule out that there'll be more of a weather market to come.
Every county fair has that special person or family. They are there before the gates open and long after the lights go out, helping families with projects and pitching in wherever they're needed, never asking for recognition. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, along with Wiffles Hybrids, is honoring them with the Heart of the County Fair Award. 6 winners will be recognized locally and at the Iowa State Fair, with a plaque, cash prize, VIP passes, and food coupons. Don't delay. Nominations are due June 1st. Visit iowaagnet.com to nominate today.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and of course, as our marketing year and growing season go on, we're going to find out what's happening with our competition south of the equator as we find out what's happening in this week's South American Update with Ben Breisch of Allendale talking with Riley.
Riley Smith, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, on the phone right now with Allendale commodity broker Ben Breisch, and we're taking a look at the conditions down in South America. First off, Ben, what's the latest weather patterns looking like down there?
Yeah, so latest weather patterns, Brazil has been catching up on the rains. The first part of the year throughout the spring, and really what was an important part for their growing season, they were behind. But as they approach harvest, it kind of seems like they're getting more rains, which is good, but I've got a feeling that it's a little bit too late as they've gotten about a quarter less of their normal rain year over year. So when you look at that, you could expect as they start harvesting over the next few weeks, you'll start seeing those harvest numbers be a little bit lighter.
And with that moisture returning to the forecast, Ben, we know that the crop conditions, they were a little worried about dryness there for a little bit, but as they get close to harvest, are things looking pretty good down there then?
Yeah, right now, I mean, you could say that the late rains have helped a little bit and maybe helped mitigated some of the concern from the market. Now, we obviously know that the grain markets in the United States have jumped up quite a bit, but you can't argue that's because of a smaller crop down in South America. And keep in mind, guys, I mean, they typically get a lot of rain, so them to be behind on rain a little bit doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have an absolute abysmal crop. You know, it is a rainforest after all, so they are behind, but with the technology that we have this year, I think that they are still going to have a decent-sized crop coming out over the next few weeks.
And then as we look at the price comparisons with specifically U.S. grains and then Brazil, what are we looking at right now with that relationship? And I know there is a decent price advantage down there.
Yes, there is. Really, the price advantage comes in on the corn side of things. So we don't typically have the price advantage that we are carrying right now. We have about a $9 to $10 price advantage carrying us all the way into about September. Usually this time of the year, the price advantage is on Brazil's side because they typically have a larger crop. But this price advantage is in the U.S.'s favor this year because of the concerns early on with the crop size. Now that we're getting to harvest, once we start seeing some numbers come across the news wires over the next few weeks, that price advantage may change, which may be detrimental to the U.S. markets, specifically on corn.
And then in general, with that marketing, I would say at this time of year when we see a relationship like that start to form, what should farmers be looking at with their grains and how to market that? Because with that price advantage, it can be a little tricky to think about.
Yes, exactly. It is tricky, but right now you guys we've gotten a nice pop in these markets, getting us back to where we were at about a week or two ago. I mean, we can see how quickly these markets can really fall out of bed, and we saw that Thursday and Friday of last week. Now, if we're going to be trading headlines, a lot of it comes down to what comes out of the White House, and that could be, that could change depending on the hour. But right now, look at the fundamentals. And the fundamentals right now, the world trade's telling you that the U.S. has a price advantage, so you probably will be seeing better bids from your local elevators, assuming that price advantage sticks around. Now, like I said, if that corn market, if that corn comes out of Brazil and it's not as tight of a crop as we have priced in right now, that price advantage could change pretty quickly, and you could lose the potential premium that we are carrying over Brazil.
All right, Ben, lots of great information today. For anybody who would like to stay in touch with Allendale for more marketing information, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Give us a call anytime at 1-800-2-MARKET. That's 1-800-262-7538.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland, the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Time now to run down the basis numbers for you here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Thursday. I'm Dustin Huffman. Taking a look at cash bids around the state, only 3 elevators making any kind of changes on those bids. Let's run them down. ADM Burlington 12 cents under on corn, $4.51. Soybeans 20 cents under, $11.78. Cargill Eddyville 22 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.41. New Co-op Algona 38 cents under on corn, $4.25. Soybeans 60 cents under at $11.38. Ag State Sheldon 30 cents under on corn, $4.33. Soybeans 65 cents under, $11.33. Ag State Elta 35 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.28. Soybeans 60 cents under, $11.38. Cargill Cedar Rapids 20 cents under on corn, $4.43. Soybeans 30 cents under, cash price $11.68. 5-Star Co-op Nashua 33 cents under on corn, $4.30. Soybeans 60 cents under at $11.38. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada 27 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.36. ADM Des Moines 25 cents under on soybeans, the cash price $11.73. New Co-op Red Oak 32 cents under on corn, $4.31. Soybeans 60 cents under at $11.38. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain 46 cents under on corn, $4.17 for the cash bid. Soybeans 76 cents under at $11.22. New Co-op Sheraton 31 cents under on corn, $4.32. Soybeans 60 cents under, cash bid $11.38. Walk-On Feed Ranch 47 cents under on corn, $4.16. Soybeans 68 cents under, $11.30. New Co-op Glidden 38 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.25. Soybeans 60 cents under, $11.38. Innovative Ag Farley 45 cents under on corn, $4.18. Soybeans 68 cents under at $11.30. And at Cargill Muscatine today, they're 18 cents under on corn, $4.45. Soybeans 28 cents under, their cash bid $11.70, and they'll be closed on Memorial Day. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. With this check of your elevator bids here on Iowa Ag Matters, I'm Dustin Huffman. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this message.
Every county fair has that special person or family. They are there before the gates open and long after the lights go out, helping families with projects and pitching in wherever they're needed, never asking for recognition. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, along with Wiffles Hybrids, is honoring them with the Heart of the County Fair Award. 6 winners will be recognized locally and at the Iowa State Fair with a plaque, cash prize, VIP passes, and food coupons. Don't delay. Nominations are due June 1st. Visit iowaagnet.com to nominate today. Here on the Iowa Ag Matters program, Dustin Huffman gets the latest update on planning progress around the state and also learns more about the Choose Iowa Agritourism program from Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Naig. Here's Dustin with more.
Well, it's time now for our monthly sit-down with Iowa Agriculture Secretary Mike Naig. And Secretary, hard to believe we're already staring down the end of May here as we're talking today.
Absolutely. Good to talk with you. And that still need to get some acres covered in terms of planting. But here we are starting to think about summer.
Well, that's where I was going to start today. Crop progress numbers. Well, we had a slow start. Mother Nature was just kind of off her meds, as I like to have said here the last couple of weeks. But boy, did she come through for us in the last 2-3 weeks and given us a chance to really get close to catching up to the average.
Yeah, I'd say fits and starts, right? I mean, there were some windows that opened up kind of in April early, and some folks took advantage of that, and then sat for a while. But yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge, and it certainly. As things started, we were behind. We were actually several days behind, and now we really have largely caught up. So approaching where we say the end here. But look, it's still been true that there's parts of the state that have been dry. There's parts of the state that have had too much moisture. I guess you and I could probably go back, rerun the tape from every year that we've talked about this time of year. And I would probably have to say, or would have said something similar, which is variability always reigns supreme. But we were able to, I think, take advantage of some windows, cover a lot of ground. And that's the thing that we know now is with equipment being what it is, folks can get a lot of acres in when the window does open. So yeah, sitting here pretty good. We've had moisture, which we needed, but unfortunately here in the last few days, that has also come with some severe weather, wind, hail, some tornadoes, definitely hearing about and aware of some damage to farms, to communities, and to some ag business facilities as well. So we never like to see that, but unfortunately that's come with some of that moisture that we needed.
And of course, we're going to talk about those storms. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of structural damage, but probably one of the good things about us getting that late start is not too much was going to be up in the fields when we had any kind of instances of hail. That's
true. It's true. And we're the full story is still coming out, but that's exactly right. Is we're not talking about we're not in June here, end of June or into July, certainly from a crop development standpoint, and sometimes that can actually be a blessing. So yeah, I don't think we won't say that there's widespread crop damage because of that early nature.
All right. You had a big announcement come out here this morning here with Choose Iowa. You want to talk to us a little bit about what's going on there? Yeah,
we continue to see just great strength and growth in the Choose Iowa program, which again, that's our state's branded program for Iowa grown, Iowa made, Iowa raised. We had a good legislative session, continued bipartisan support, both chambers to continue to grow that program and staff it accordingly, and also to continue to fund grant programs, specifically around value-added grants, dairy innovation, and meat processing as well. And then some purchase programs, one for food banks and one for schools. And again, trying to connect the dots, providing some assistance to purchase fresh, local, nutritious foods from Choose Iowa members and growers and businesses. So really appreciate the support. What we launched today or announced today was our 2026 version of the passport. And this is, I love this, thing when you can, everybody loves earning points and earning swag and those types of things. But when you visit a Choose Iowa member, if you've downloaded the Choose Iowa passport, you can check in at that location. You can earn points. for making that visit, and then we're able to reward folks for that. So it's kind of a loyalty program, but really what it is the ability to click open that passport on your phone and find, if you're looking for a cheese or a brewery or what have you, flower shop, you can use the map feature on that, and you can, really locate those participating members. So I would encourage folks, go to chooseiowa.com. Look for the 2026 passport. It's free. You just have to download it to your mobile device and check in when you're visiting those Choose Iowa members throughout the year.
And not only is it great for the customers who are coming to get those little swags and those points and stuff, but obviously it's a great way to get those people in the door of these participating organizations.
Absolutely. And, we have a significant member, again, 340 members as of this morning. I just got an update actually from the Choose Iowa team. And that number just continues to grow. And actually, I love this feature about the passport. We want to reward folks and encourage folks to visit all Choose Iowa members, but there's actually a feature built in that the further you have to go, or maybe the more of the back roads that you have to explore to find some of these locations, the more points you can earn. So we're really trying to encourage folks to get out there, get on some county gravel roads and really see the state of Iowa, experience it. It's good agritourism. But yeah, get in those doors. One of the things we love is that these on-farm stores where somebody might be selling meat direct, and that's their main business, but they're also providing and selling honey and flour and all kinds of other products that maple syrup and those types of things, candles, things that other Choose Iowa members are also selling, and they represent that and sell it in a retail setting right on a store, maybe repurposing a barn, something like that. So those are tremendous experiences, but Dustin, they're good for business too. Consumers, Iowans tell us they want more local, they want to buy, and they want to know where their food comes from. They want to have those kinds of experiences. We think there's a huge opportunity here to meet that demand.
Every county fair has that special person or family. They are there before the gates open and long after the lights go out, helping families with projects and pitching in wherever they're needed, never asking for recognition. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, along with Wiffles Hybrids, is honoring them with the Heart of the County Fair Award. 6 winners will be recognized locally and at the Iowa State Fair, with a plaque, cash prize, VIP passes, and food coupons. Don't delay. Nominations are due June 1st. Visit iowaagnet.com to nominate today.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson. Joined at midday by Brandon Doherty of Total Farm Marketing. Brandon, what's happening with the trade in the grains here on Thursday?
Kind of mixed. I have corn around neutral, maybe up a penny or so, beans down just a little bit, and wheat is seeming to be the downside leader, down about 4 to 7 in Chicago right now. We did see that energy prices have bounced a little bit here, currently up around $2 to $3 a barrel on crude oil. That was after the head of the United Arab Emirates state oil firm said that the conflict in the Middle East, even if it were to end today, it would still take quite a bit of time, maybe into 2027, before the flow of energies back through the Strait of Hormuz would return to normal. And so I think that might be kind of keeping us afloat here today, so to speak, because the trend seems to be a little bit weaker after Monday's big rally. And I think part of that is profit taking. Part of it might just be a little bit of uncertainty yet as to what that $17 billion that China has supposedly agreed to purchase of ag products, just what that exactly allocates to in terms of which products.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade today?
I've got red across the board. Live cattle down about 4 to 5.75. Feeders down. Actually, it looks like might be down limit here at 9.25. So taking a bit of a hit there. Hogs are also lower. I think there may be a little bit of anticipation of a negative cattle on feet report tomorrow. We do have pre-report estimates that suggest placements at 103% compared to a year ago, but the range of estimates is quite wide. Going off memory, I think it was like 92% to 108%, and I've heard more talk that could come in on the higher side. So if that does, that could lead to a bit of a bearish report there. In addition, we have markets closed Monday for Memorial Day, and so we may see a little bit of pressure because of that, just as packers may be a little bit less aggressive due to the holiday.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
Sure, the best way is to call us at 800-334-9779.
Brandon Doherty, Total Farm Marketing, my guest here today. Thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it, and have a great day.
You as well. Thank you very much.
Start your weekend with insight and inspiration on Weekend Ag Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Every week we bring you an in-depth look at the top ag stories with a recap of the week's biggest headlines. Join us for long-format interviews with industry leaders and policymakers, giving you insights you won't hear anywhere else. And don't miss our faith-based segment with Russ Parker, Food for Thought, offering a perspective that helps bring clarity and focus to our lives. Make Weekend Ag Matters part of your weekend routine. Tune in every weekend on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
July corn up a half cent at $4.66 1/4. July soybeans up 3/4 cent at $12 1/2 cent. July soybean meal down 30 cents at $3.3060. July soybean oil unchanged at $74.66. On the Merc, June live cattle down $3.95 at $249.33. August feeder cattle down $9.25 at $356.53. June lean hogs down $1.65 at $95.63. June pork cutout down 65 cents at $113.30. Class 3 milk unchanged at $16.72. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we're going to go back into the livestock side of the marketplace. And as we continue our analysis of what's going on, of course, cattle markets today really taking on the chin, the feeders especially. We get Joe Kemp of Comstock Investments rejoining the conversation with Mark.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Cattle futures falling weaker. They continue to show a weaker bias after just short of a month ago making a new all-time high. We see that every time the board, though, drops like it has, then it stalls, and we see rebounding on this fact that the cash is not coming down quite as fast. In fact, we just had last week live cash cattle prices reaching new record highs and installing this really big premium over the futures. So that pauses traders from selling. Otherwise, though, we're in a more technically negative window right now for cattle futures, and the same could be said for hogs. What's taking them lower is continued speculative pressure that we have on this downtrending market.
What's happening on the hog side in general right now, Joe? We're getting close to the World Pork Show here in Des Moines, and I know that when you think back to a couple of years ago, at least, we were in a much better spot with the price.
Yeah, it's been over the last 3 months a very sharp spiral, and again, technically driven in part. You see that the fund traders have been exiting positions steadily since having held a pretty bullish bet back in February. We see, though, on the fundamental side, some possible help to come, and that includes more bullish seasonals heading into the June and July summer months. We think about the summer grilling season kicking off. It'll be, of course, an early start with Memorial Day already coming up on Monday. We can get into good demand and still think about pork competing well with beef, and then the lower production overall seasonally to possibly give the hogs some hope here as we knock on the door of summer.
Joe Camp of Comstock, my guest here today. Head to Comstock.com for all of the marketing information and resources. Joe, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great day.
Same. Thanks a lot.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we're going to hear now from the latest episode, the May episode of Pods of Potential, as Mark Magnuson continues that conversation of the intersection between policy and conservation practices. Mark?
Welcome into this episode of the Pods of Potential podcast. It's episode number 30, and today's topic of discussion is how conservation and ag policy overlap. And we're here with our friends at the Iowa Soybean Association today, joined by Chief Officer of Demand and Advocacy at Iowa Soybean Association, Matt Herman, also joined by Story County farmer and ISA District 5 Director Dave Struthers, and Iowa State University Professor Mike Castellano.
On linking this stuff back to policy, I don't think there's any kind of one route here. I think it depends on the practice and the scale to an extent. And I think it also depends on what the outcome is and how we can help farmers monetize that outcome, if you will. So, Mike talked about their residue management, early planting, for example. There are two kind of benefits there. One, if we can find, if we can measure that water quality benefit, then we can work to get that worked into state incentives, so there's state incentives available. I've been actually very excited. We've taken this work, again, it's for the listeners who have been exposed or played around with the GREET calculator as part of 45Z. There's some basic practices in there like no-till, cover crops, nitrogen stabilizers. Now we're taking the early planting work that Mike's done, and we've shown Argonne National Lab, we've showed the Department of Energy how this can scale and how impactful this can be across the greater Midwest landscape. And now that's an option for us to get that practice, if you will, early planting built into the GREET model so that even if the state runs out of cost share dollars for the water quality piece, we might still be able to plug this into 45Z, have the biofuel folks get a lower carbon footprint and pay farmers just simply for doing early planting, not having to do anything different, but getting their maintenance done on their equipment, and hopefully the weather cooperates and they can get out there early.
That is really interesting. Really just changing a management practice.
Yeah, and those things I think will be the easiest things that we can do if we can work with Iowa State and others to validate that science. We don't necessarily have to change the system and flip the whole table over, but there are tweaks that we've got to find.
Yeah, and Mark, early planting and residue harvest are such great examples here, and I want to build on this a little bit and connect them to the water quality. When we think about practices that are the best for getting into these models like GREET to help really push the conservation outcomes forward, we're thinking about really the practices that affect multiple pieces of the system: nitrogen, water, and carbon. And residue and early planting do both of those. So early planting, we're getting more water off the field earlier, more nitrogen uptake by the crop earlier in the season when we do the early planting. And in fact, our results last year from Iowa State showed over a 30% reduction in nitrate loading by harvesting corn residue, partial harvest of corn residue, and then following that with early planting of soybeans. The reason for that reduction in nitrate loading is twofold. We got an increase in evaporation early in the spring, which helps farmers like Dave get in there and plant earlier. And then by planting the soybeans earlier on that drier, warmer soil, they grow faster and they take up nitrogen earlier in the season. And it also reduces the concentration of nitrate in the water.
So sticking with that very same topic about residue and talking about stover removal, could you give us, Mike, some advice or encouragement for farmers who are curious about that topic?
Yeah, so we get these questions a lot. Farmer may not have the capability to harvest some residue, but oftentimes they can find a neighbor who does, and they're able to work with them to experiment with it. I think a couple of the big benefits and reporting out that we like to hear when we work with farmers on residue management, experimenting with it, is did you see an ability to get into that field earlier in the spring? That's one benefit we're looking for. And then the other is when we're growing corn, particularly corn on corn, do we see a reduction in nitrogen fertilizer need and an increase in yield from that following crop?
Every county fair has that special person or family. They are there before the gates open and long after the lights go out, helping families with projects and pitching in wherever they're needed, never asking for recognition. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, along with Wiffles Hybrids, is honoring them with the Heart of the County Fair Award. 6 winners will be recognized locally and at the Iowa State Fair, with a plaque, cash prize, VIP passes, and food coupons. Don't delay. Nominations are due June 1st. Visit iowaagnet.com to nominate today.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Thanks for joining us for the Thursday edition of Iowa Ag Matters. Thanks to Riley and to Dustin. I'm Mark Magnuson. Join us again tomorrow for more here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.